All right, I'm going live. It's Thursday, June 3rd, 2021. I'm Rym.
I'm Scott.
And this is GeekNights. Tonight we're talking about skin, the flesh that wraps your meat. So, way back, like years ago, there was a recall on kitty fire extinguishers, like this one kind of fire extinguisher. Like I remember all of us were like checking our fire extinguishers.
Is that the brand I have? Hold on.
I'm pretty sure it was the brand you had because I remember we all were like, "Oh shit, do I have the one? Like, is it a problem?"
Yeah. What happened to me was I went and filled out a form because I thought mine was recalled, and then like they were like, "No, actually, yours isn't recalled. Yours is fine." And then one day, one just showed up in my house.
Yep. So I made a note to go check on my fire extinguisher. I didn't care that much because even like fail recall fire extinguishers often work mostly fine and they're rare to use. And I have two.
I mean, I remember I also told them when I got the second one, I'm like, "Do both of these work? I'm like, can I trust both of these? Are you sure?" They're like, "Yes, you have two good fire extinguishers." I'm like,
so
okay.
I was, we're cleaning now that it's a little like COVID's getting better. It's spring. We're getting rid of all our furniture and like changing a bunch of stuff up, doing a lot of cleaning, giving a lot of things away. And I bumped into the fire extinguishers and I was like, "Oh, I should probably actually check to see if these were recalled." So I go and I go through their somewhat tedious process. And sure enough, the one I have is specifically recalled.
All right.
So they have a form to fill out and I fill it out and like a week goes by and they get back and I hear nothing. Like I don't hear anything. They don't, no response.
Fire extinguisher will probably just show up at your door.
So yesterday, a package, the size and shape of a fire extinguisher did in fact show up.
Nice. Okay, that's what I thought would happen.
Yeah. So I come up and first on the outside of it is a big packing slip and it has ridiculous and annoying instructions. It will be a giant hassle to mail the failed one that was recalled back to them. Like I'm gonna have to call a special number. They have all these warnings. They're like, I
didn't mail one back because I had two good ones.
Yeah, so they want me to mail this back, and they're like, here's a FedEx return number and a label, but you can't just give it to FedEx. You have to call this number first, ignore all their prompts, and keep saying request to speak to an agent until a human being is on the phone. Then say these things in this order to get them to do a special thing. It's like this ridiculous bullshit that they sent me. So I think
can't you do it in person at a FedEx store or something?
No, you have to call a special number that's just for this recall.
Okay.
Because shipping a fire extinguisher is a pressurized vessel, which has a lot of federal and state laws.
Of course, yeah.
So that's going to be a pain in the ass.
What if since it is defective in some way, right? Couldn't you just like unload it somewhere? Like
I could, but they have instructed me not to do that because if I've used it, then there's no point in the recall doesn't matter. They're not going to send me a new one.
Well, then it won't be unpressurized. You could mail it back. You just need to send it back to prove that it, was
Yeah, so anyway, that's not why I brought this up. That annoying process, I read this sheet. It was stupid. I'm going to scan it, like post it online and make fun of it because it's just awful. But then later, I actually opened the package to like look at this new fire extinguisher. And I find that the fire extinguisher in that box had exploded at some point during transit.
Whoa.
It was full of plastic debris and fire extinguisher bullshit that I had to clean up. It was a giant mess. So it's currently sitting on the balcony.
Rigmarole to send one, and they couldn't even send it properly.
Yep. Oh, there's a whole nother page of instructions of how to pack it in the special way so it won't blow up when I send it back to them.
Well, I guess they didn't do that, did they?
No. So I opened a service ticket now, and I was like, look, this thing came up, exploded. I am not going to mail this back to you. In fact, I'm going to throw it away because I have all these pictures of it. What do you want me to do? And it's been radio silence.
They're probably figuring it out.
Yeah, it's annoying. And I currently, if there's a fire in this apartment, I'm going to use this apparently recalled, but might just work fire extinguisher.
Yeah. I mean, similar news last year, I bought a new bike helmet, right? That was like the best possible bike helmet, right? #1 safety rating, whatever, right? And you would, instead of adjusting it with a thing in the back, you adjust it with a knob on the top. which might interest you because because most of the bike helmets have a thing in the back, right?
Yep.
But because this one's on the top, apparently it's good for people with long hair because it doesn't have.
Oh. Thing is, I just got a brand new helmet not that long ago.
Well, 5 years from now, you can get the same helmet I have.
Yeah,
So anyway.
I upgraded to MIPS.
Yeah, me too. So anyway, the spinny thing on top, though, right? So I only used the helmet last year and like twice this year so far. You would spin it to tighten the thing, and then sometimes, or basically frequently, right? It wouldn't stay. Like you would spin it, and then it would fully spin all the way back, almost like the vacuum cleaner. You push the button and it sucks the cord in, like your rice cooker does the same thing.
Yeah, but it just sounds like it's cheap. Like the gear in there, the little interlock.
That was a very expensive, top-rated helmet, so I was like, "What the fuck is up with?" Right? So I go online. I finally am fed up with it enough. And the warranty was 2 or 3 years, so it wasn't out of warranty yet. So after I rode one or two times this year, I was fed up enough. I emailed them and I looked on YouTube to see hey, is it supposed to be like this? And it's no, people are like, it's so stiff that I sometimes I can't even get out of it. And I'm like, oh, it is clearly broken. So I emailed them, and just like you, radio silence. And I was getting I spent a lot on this helmet. I'm mad. But no, then I just waited a couple more days, and they sent an email. And they sent me, I got a new helmet, right? And the new one is perfect in every way, and it totally works.
All right.
And is completely different and is the best. But to prove, basically, instead of mailing the old helmet back, they made me cut the straps on the old one and send them a photo to prove. And that felt really bad to do to a helmet that could probably be repaired if you just replaced a tiny piece of plastic in there somewhere.
You could have photoshopped it and then given the helmet away to someone.
I thought about that. There was nothing wrong with the helmet part of it. It was just something wrong with the tension mechanism. It's you could definitely have fixed this right? It's a very expensive helmet. You're making me just cut the straps and throw out. But well, I cut the straps and threw it out. So there you go.
Anyway, got any news? It's Thursday. It's the lounge. We can talk about anything.
I don't have a news. I got a Geek Bite though. I was on Netflix, and Netflix was like, "Yo, I got a recommendation engine, and I 80+% think that you, Scott, should watch this." And I was like, "Oh, I got nothing doing right now. What am I going to do? Read the book club book?" I got 90 minutes, right? Nothing's happening. There's no hockey on anymore these days. It's shorter than a hockey game, right? It's a Netflix original thing. I want to get my money's worth out of this Netflix. And it was a French sci-fi movie called Oxygen. And so I'm like, all right, whatever. No one's talked about this. I guess I'll be the person who finds out, right? It was very recent. It came out May.
Direct release on Netflix, May 12th.
Yeah, it's very recent. It's just a movie. So what's the deal with this movie? Here's the premise. It's a sci-fi deal, right? This person wakes up in a cryo sleep chamber, right? Presumably they were sick, right? And then, were put in, used cryogenics to preserve their body until there was some sort of future where they could be healed, right? The typical scenario, right? You presume. And they have woken up, clearly not the right time, right? They weren't woken up intentionally. They were accidentally woken up. And the cryo chamber that they are in is very futuristic, right? It's got AI. It's got all kinds of shit going on in it. Right? It's very fancy. Very, very fancy. Could not exist in our world, but is, realistic for the future kind of thing, right? And then basically what you get is something that the content of it is obviously very different from something what's the one where the military guy who can't, was it Born on the 4th of July, right? Is that the one? Right? I think. Born on the 4th. I read this in high school. I should remember. Born on the 4th of July. Okay. Or is it Johnny Get Your Gun? I forget. It's one of those two.
Johnny Get Your Gun is probably what you're talking about.
Johnny, get your gun. Johnny got his gun? Yes.
That's the one. That's the one you're thinking of.
One. Yes, that's the one I read in high school. Johnny Got His Gun, where the guy is in war and he gets shelled, right? He can't talk.
Yeah, right? Well, because there was the well-known Metallica song that is loosely based on this story.
Yes, we watched the Metallica video in in school.
Wow, that entire
Oh.
album just flooded into my brain out of nowhere. I haven't thought about And Justice for All in like 20 years.
Yeah. So it's a lot like that, right? Where it's the whole thing is just from the perspective of this one person in this one place, and there's a world outside that they're interacting with, right? But the camera really doesn't leave this this cryo sleep chamber except to, show you, the past or the future, or things like that, right? Memories, dreams, that sort of thing. And basically what it is, it's like a Twilight Zone episode, right? Or a sci-fi short story.
I'm into that.
Yeah, you sort of they reveal what's going on, right, in stages, until you find the terrible secret of space, and then it's over. It's 90 minutes. I feel like, they don't wait. It's not like it's paced slowly or anything that I feel like 90 minutes is too long. I just feel like you could have told the same story with less plot points, right? In a shorter amount. Like if you wrote, it would be like it's sort of like, if you took Harrison Bergeron, how long is that story? Like 20 pages? It's like really short, right? To read Harrison Bergeron. But like, how long's the movie?
Oh God, that movie, I recall it being extra long, but I don't remember if that's just because I watched it on the Sci-Fi Channel with commercials the first time.
Right. Let's see how long the Harrison Bergeron movie is. 99 minutes, right? So yeah, it's about similar length, right? They take this tiny short story that says everything that has to be said, right, in a very small number of pages, and they stretch it out to a 90-minute movie. So that's what this is. It's like if you wrote this as a short story in like, some little anthology sci-fi magazine, it would be a short one. It would be pretty good. Or it'd be one Twilight Zone episode, right? You could cover all this material. But they stretch it out to 90 minutes by adding more stuff to it, right? But if you like that sort of thing, then you could find a worse way to spend your 90 minutes. And if you don't like that sort of thing, don't watch this sort of thing.
I'm game. That kind of sci-fi is up my alley. I similarly watched a movie.
It's in French with English subtitle or whatever subtitle you have, right?
So I ended up similarly this past weekend watching a film that I had never heard of. It stars Ed Harris. It was made in the 80s.
I don't know who that is.
I guess you didn't watch Westworld, so he wouldn't stand out to you there either. But anyway, this movie is super weird in that it's hard to really explain it unless you know the history of the antebellum South in America. But basically, before the American Civil War, there was this concept of filibuster, which is not the filibuster you're thinking of. It's an older, different use of the word. But the gist of it was pro-slavery white folk in the U.S. would, with the tacit blessing of American conservative politicians, go down to Mexico and Central America and try to foster revolutions and form republics that they could then apply back to the U.S. for statehood to then add more slave states to the Union. They wanted to basically make a bunch more Texases.
Well, there were many revolutions in places south of the U.S. that were incited by the U.S.
So
indirectly, but none of them became states, I guess.
Yeah, so this movie is fascinating because it opens and it's framed as a true story. And it is true. The guy it's about, Walker, existed and did basically all the things that this character does in the movie. He went down to Mexico, tried to do this, failed, escaped back to the U.S., went on trial for violating the neutrality of a foreign power. The jury's nullified because the jury's always nullified anyone who filibustered back then because they were pro-slavery. So he got away with it. He went back, this time to Nicaragua, funded by Cornelius Vanderbilt personally, to take over the country, which he did. He became the president of Nicaragua for multiple years.
Okay, I basically, if that's true, I didn't know it clearly because I don't know anything about Nicaragua older than the 80s, 1980s.
Yeah. So he did this, and he was kind of crazy, and it's a Heart of Darkness situation basically happened, and eventually a coalition of a bunch of Central American armies led by Costa Rica deposed him. They sent him to Honduras where he was executed, and his execution was right. This dude needed to be executed. But the movie is framed as a true story, and it tells this story. but it has a bunch of anachronisms in it that creep in. Like, it starts out like very historical, and it gets more and more surreal as it goes on. Like, at one point, like, you see someone reading Time magazine, like, just for a second, and you're just like, wait, what? And then, like, a car just drives by, way out of place. In the very
18 somethings.
Yep, in the very end of the 1855.
Car from the
1970s. So eventually, I'm going to spoil it. At the very end of the movie, a helicopter lands with a bunch of like CIA agents who evacuate all the U.S. citizens. And then the credits roll and it shows a bunch of shots. And basically, the movie was about the continued meddling that the United States was doing in that region and how nothing changed. And we've been doing the same thing this whole time.
You don't say.
But the movie was just...
I knew that part I knew.
Yeah. But the way the movie did it was surreal and interesting. It was not what I expected, and I enjoyed it. But I don't know if I would necessarily recommend you watch it unless you're into sort of surrealist, weird movies, because it appears that the director was kind of blackballed from ever making movies again after this.
Mm-hmm.
So partly because it was very anti-American government, but also because they went down to Nicaragua and filmed it there during the Contra situation, partly in protest against the Contra situation to try to bring more dollars down there to help the people of Nicaragua. Mm-hmm. Like, it was the whole thing you can read about. And I had literally never heard of this movie before. And it was fascinating to watch.
Okay.
In some little newses, so there's one little thing. Many of you have been working from home for possibly the last year or so. Scott and I are still working from home. And the UK is thinking about having some regulations that would ban emails or the requirement of responses to emails and other types of communication outside of your paid working hours. Unless you're being paid, you legally would not have to respond to communications.
I mean, I guess that only matters because they're probably they don't have the right to work situation that we have, right? At least in New York State.
Not right to work, at will is what you're thinking of.
At will, right.
Right to work is the anti-union thing. At will is the nobody owes you anything thing.
Right. So we have work at will in New York State and many other states in the U.S., which means you can quit your job at any time for any reason, which is perfectly that's what it should be. You should be able to quit your job at any time for any reason, right? That makes sense. But also, you can be fired at any time for any reason, as long as you weren't fired for being, something that's a protected
There's a
class.
list of reasons that are not allowed, and as you can imagine, it's very easy to manufacture.
It's a short list that's too short. It should be longer.
It is very easy to manufacture a reason.
Yes, it is very easy to manufacture one of those reasons. And in fact, the list is so short, it only includes protected classes, right? Like, you can't fire someone because they're a Jew like me, right? It's like, okay, right? Well, can you fire someone because they won't come to work late Friday, right? It's like, you might be able to get away with that, maybe not, right? Because but what thing you can do, for example, in New York at least, right, is like, I'm a Mets fan, right? I could fire you for wearing a Yankees hat. That's totally legal. Nothing. No one. They have no case against me if I did that.
Yep.
I could be like, nope, I'm the boss here. No Yankees allowed. That's but obviously that shouldn't be. But
basically, the way this would work, because also the laws are different there, obviously, but it talks about things like routinely emailing or calling your employees, especially if you're a manager, outside of working hours, could arguably be grounds like that would be harassment if they were doing that. They would have to not do it routinely, or you could make a case.
Not just you don't guaranteed protection against being fired if you don't respond to emails,
but doing it could be prima facie evidence of harassment or pressure. And it's interesting because I think the quote in the article is they're looking for the government to give employees a legally binding right to disconnect outside of their working hours.
Yeah, I mean, I already, I guess, I don't have this right, but basically,
we both have the privilege.
Yeah, I act like I do, right? If I say work is done, work is done. I just stop looking at the email. What the fuck if some I'm like
I've done a lot more work outside of hours than I would have in the past, but I'm getting paid enough to I'm pretty cool with it for the time being.
So for example, a couple weeks ago at work, right, we have a new system for triaging incidents, which is good. That's a good thing to do, right?
Yeah.
So there was a rubric that was like there were like levels, like level 1 through 5, right? And it's like what does an incident have to do to qualify for the different levels, right? It's like something is causing problems. Users can still get their work done, but it sucks. All right. It's like, all right, that's like level 3 or 4, depending, right? It's like, customers can't do work, right? We can't make money. That's like incident. That's like number 1, right? It's like, okay, this makes sense. Now we can quantify how many incidents are happening at what level. We know what to work on first if there are incidents, right? All the very good stuff to do procedurally speaking. But next to each incident level, right, there was like, hey, what do we do about it, right? And the top incident level they had written next to it, incident hot priority 1, right? You're expected to work on this 24/7 until it's fixed. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't care if every single computer in the whole company is on fire and nothing's working, right? I'm like,
I'm at PAX.
I work this many hours, right? If it gets to 5 o'clock and the incident isn't fixed, that's tough shit. You're gonna have to, if it's Friday at 3 because it's summer Friday, you're waiting until Monday at 9 or 10 before I get back to that. That's just tough cookies.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I don't work intentionally, right? Obviously, if I worked at a medical place, right, aerospace.
Well, there are very different kinds of jobs. Like, for example, if my job was to be like the live producer for sports and like there's 10 overtimes, that's an expected part of my job. Like, I'll be there for those 10 hours. I'm not going to be like, well, it's game 7 of the Stanley Cup final and it went to overtime. It's 5 o'clock. Sorry. See ya.
At NASA and there's an Apollo 13 happening. You're not just like, well, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
You can't do right. But I intentionally, purposely work in places that are not dire like that.
Yep.
Right.
I have worked in places dire like that, and I've tried to get out of places. Like, I've tried to avoid that in my career as I've gotten older.
I have purposefully not worked in such a place. And I was like, look, from the perspective of the company, like internal to itself, I understand why you would be like level 1 incident. That's like an emergency, right? That you need to work on 24/7. But I'm like, I have a greater life. I'm looking at it from the perspective of, life and society. I was like, if our company crumbles, right? It's like, that's not actually that damaging to society. It's
especially in this current job market for people like you and me.
Right. And I was like, and even that, it's like if our systems are down for a whole weekend, it's like we pay out people quarterly. As long as we're up enough in each quarter to get the payments out, it's like we're good.
Well, that's like, remember everyone was dragging that Penny Arcade job posting that was basically, we won't pay you much and you're on call 24/7 and you can't take vacations.
For a webcomic?
Yeah.
to keep a JPEG serving? It's like, no. That's
like, I think there is an amount of money a job like that could pay.
If the funny JPEG doesn't load, it can wait until Monday.
Yep. Right? I imagine there's an amount of money you could pay me where I would be willing to say, I will make sure that JPEG is up 24/7. But the problem is that is an amount of money to where after like a year, I would quit because I could retire.
That is an amount of money a funny JPEG does not make.
Exactly. And if the JPEG did make that much money, then the people involved in that JPEG should be making a lot more money.
Which means they could hire several people so no one has to be on call that much.
Yep. Anyway, one last thing. I'm going to preface this by saying that I am not speaking in my professional capacity at any job, nor am I giving you investment advice of any kind whatsoever, nor is Scott. Just want to
I'll
note.
give you investment advice. Don't do coins. Don't touch a coin ever, unless it's a legit, real U.S. coin.
Yeah. And even then, stay away from any
countries' coins.
Stay away from anything smaller than a dime because they're really not worth touching.
No crypto coins at all. Ever.
So, if you haven't noticed, AMC, the movie theater chain, like they were on the verge of bankruptcy and not doing well. Not just because of COVID, but there's a lot. Like theaters are not doing great generally, especially big theater chains. So, nerds on the internet decided to just buy a lot of AMC stock. It's a meme stock, just like what happened with GameStop, what's happening with like various random crypto coins. Like it's a thing lately.
I always remember in 7th grade, there was a little stock market game run by the local bank, and our 7th grade teacher was like a big stock dude, right? So the whole class broke up into teams and played the stock market game, right? It was meant for schools, right? And you fake invested a pile of money, and whoever had the most money at the end of a period of time, won, and we got to go to the stock market, right? The floor of the NYSE or whatever. And we won because the teacher told us, right, in like week 2, he's like, I found these Mexican penny stocks, guys. Right? We're all gonna, and here's some news about the peso something, right? Everyone buy as much of these as you can. And I'm like, all right, well, and he's like, you can get so many shares. If it goes up even like a few cents, you'll win this.
That is arguably, possibly illegal. I am not stating that in my professional opinion.
Well, it was a game. It wasn't real money.
Yeah, but if it was implied that you should do this for real.
No, it was not. It was
okay.
It was to win the stock market game with fake money. It was not to do it for.
I remember we did that on GeekNights with a listener a long time ago, and one player just bought 1 share of Berkshire Hathaway's back when it was like a very high value stock.
I think the listener Timo won by buying all Apple and just waiting. I could have won. I bought Netflix, and right before they launched their Xbox app, it skyrocketed, and then I sold when I was in first. If I would have just hodled, I would have won.
Mm-hmm.
But
so anyway,
the point is, this is similar, right? AMC was in the pooper, right? And by illegally, that means anyone could buy a bunch of shares easily. These kids can't afford a Berkshire Hathaway share, right?
But they can afford some really, really cheap, almost bankrupt stock in a company that's not going anywhere.
Exactly. So if enough kids and other, fools and other easily, gullible people buy AMC, it'll go up. And they can buy a lot of shares because it's cheap.
So I think last I saw now, because of this like massive Redditor retail investment in AMC, they're worth as much as like Delta Airlines.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
AMC probably could not even afford to buy one jet.
So the weird news...
I'm guessing.
I mean, I'm not giving you advice, but I hope you are prudent in your investments and seek the advice of a professional if you decide to do anything. So the news is that AMC is actually going to take advantage of this. They're issuing 11 million new shares of their stock, which, if you don't know, when a company issues more stock, that basically dilutes the value of their existing stock. In most cases, there's situations where that doesn't apply, but those don't apply here. So they're issuing more stock.
They owned the whole company to start with, right? Whoever started, the founder of AMC,
yep.
Right?
Did some sort of initial public offering to distribute shares to the world in exchange for money that they would ostensibly use to run their business or do some change to their business.
But in that IPO, they didn't give out 100% of the company to the IPO. They gave out some smaller percentage, right?
Sometimes it could have been 100%, depending. You can.
But
I don't know anything about AMC's IPO at all. Don't quote me.
I don't either, right? But the point is, issuing more means like they held on to some of the stock, where AMC itself or the board or whoever, right, still owns some AMC, and they're selling it. That's
issuing more stock means you're making new shares that did not exist before and then selling them.
Right, but those shares come from some still ownership. You can't just be like,
no, but they're brand new ownership. If I have 100 shares in Rymco and I give you 50, so I got 50, you got 50. We're 50-50, right? If I issue 100 more shares and give them to Emily, well, Emily now outranks both of us. I've diluted your shares.
Where did those 100 shares?
I made them up. I issued them from nothing. That's what an issue is.
That's BS because I owned half the company.
No, you owned a number of shares, and I disclosed to the
company. You can't just give away.
That is literally how stocks work.
Well, that's way bad.
It's always been that way.
You're effectively giving away my...
Yep. Usually when there's an issuance, then stock prices drop. There's a lot of things that happen. This is like done with advanced knowledge. Like there's all sorts of things that happen that I don't want to try to explain. But so they issued a bunch more stock because these nerds are probably going to buy it. And the stock dropped a little bit. But apparently, according to this news, AMC raised $587.4 million by selling this new stock they made.
All right. Well, I guess that won't...
But they issued a statement that I'm going to read this statement to you, and then I want you to translate this to human language. It's not long. But this is the statement they made about this issuance. Quote, "We believe that the recent volatility of our current market prices reflect market and trading dynamics unrelated to our underlying business or macro or industry fundamentals. And we do not know how long these dynamics will last. Under the circumstances, the we here is AMC, caution you against investing in our Class A common stock unless you are prepared to incur the risk of losing all or a substantial portion of your investment."
Wow, that is the most honest thing I've ever heard a company ever say. A
Right?
for-profit company in the United States.
Imagine if I went up to Scott and I was like, "Look, I'm going to sell you a counterfeit Gucci bag. Pay full price for it. I'm telling you it's counterfeit. It's worth nothing. And in fact, there's a bomb in it and it'll just explode an hour after you buy it. I need you to sign something saying that I disclosed this to you."
I think it's more like, I don't even know how to describe it. But yeah, so that's a refreshing honesty of,
well,
we are selling something. Do not buy it. There's somebody out there that we know who is such a fool, who isn't listening to anyone, and is just like, there's this enormous fool out there who's just throwing money away into the fire. We're going to go and catch the money they're throwing. We can't convince them to stop, so we're just going to catch it. We might as well. Do not throw your money into the fire along with that nut job. Right? We're just watch us collect it and don't do anything.
Oh, even better. They said they're going to use the money they raised for, quote, general corporate purposes.
Executive compensation.
The speculation in this article is paying down their debt because they were flirting with bankruptcy.
Debt? That's a good idea.
They were flirting with bankruptcy prior to all this nonsense, according to some news I've read.
Okay. Well.
So yeah, that's again, I am not giving you investment advice. The statements I have made are my personal opinions and not the opinions of any employer that I have, nor are they the official opinions of GeekNights as an entity.
No, they are the opinions of AMC, though. The opinion of AMC is that you should not invest in AMC.
Yeah.
They just said that. AMC said that. We didn't say it.
Yeah, in case you wonder why I'm a communist, well. All right. But anyway, things of the day. So the show's about skin. We had this vague idea of having all skin news, all skin things of the day. But let me tell you, if you look for news about skin, you're going to find
skin news.
30% of that news is like pseudoscientific, like fake medicine nonsense.
Yep.
33% of that news is just makeup stuff. And the remaining 33% are horrific violent crimes.
Well, I mean, the makeup stuff could be news, but we don't know anything.
I don't know anything about makeup. I'm not going to talk about something.
Some of the makeup podcasts, though, that shit is probably like their bread and butter.
Yeah. So so I settled on. I just have a thing of the day. This company, these researchers at least, have made a smartphone case that is made out of synthetic human skin that has sensors in it, so it senses how you interact with it, and it could be used as a creepy control device for your smartphone or a computer.
Teledildonics.
It can teledildonics is a field that we haven't talked about recently on GeekNights, and I feel like its time has come again. I feel like we brought it up in a lot of PAX panels back in the day, and we haven't brought it up recently.
I'm surprised you don't have peripheral for your VR face mask.
They're out there, but that's not.
They are.
It's not actually.
I know they're out there. I'm saying, why don't you have one?
Because I do not yet have a significant use case for remote sex. Anyway, if you want to see video of people using, one person made a touchpad out of it and stuck it on their Lenovo. It looks exactly like what you're imagining. It is capable of detecting a gentle caress or tickling or air as being separate from more firm touches. You can pinch it and manipulate it to make it do stuff. This is my thing of the day.
Okay. I don't use TikTok. I don't trust it. I don't have the TikTok app, right? I don't have a TikTok account. But you can just, much like Twitter, you can just go to TikTok.com and watch funny TikToks. Most of the time I watch them when they're reposted to Twitter.
Yep.
But you can just go straight to TikTok. And I don't know how I found this, but I guess just by chance, there is a TikTok account, the dermdoctor, right? We got Skin is back, right? This guy, Dr. Shah, is a legit actual dermatologist, something that we are not. And he's got a TikTok account. And on the TikTok account, he's quite good. In fact, lots of legit, real advice from an actual doctor who you can trust, right? Who went to school for many years studying dermatology. Also, if you're the kind of person who likes the popping type videos, right? Right? This adds an extra layer to that, and it's not just the popping videos. It is the dermatologist reacting to them, telling you like what they are, what's happening, right? Giving people, scoring them out of 10, giving negative points when they're not wearing gloves, that sort of thing. So content warning if you can't watch that sort of thing, and yeah, it's just a really, really good channel if you want, dermatology info. And this is, I don't see this. I mean, it probably might be there somewhere, but this is the kind of content, like I don't see this on Twitter or, I think it's like
I'm pretty sure once I click on some of these with all the internet trackers, YouTube will start showing me dermatology things. And then I'll see them.
Yeah. But it's just a really, really good channel. So
yeah.
I think I might have mentioned it on the show before, but here's the actual link for you.
All right. In the meta moment, the Geek Nights Book Club book, which now that I'm a good chunk of the way through Spider-Man 2099, I'm starting to read this again. The weather's nice. Going to be biking and I'll be outside.
Today, though.
Yeah, but I'm thunderstorms tonight, too. But I am confident we will do a book club book episode on the Tale of Genji. Not just a novel, the first novel. By the end of July, like either the end of July or like the first week of August, I feel like we'll be able to do this show at the rate we're going, unless unless something big gets in our way.
We'll see. The problem is enjoying too much summer is the
only
thing that gets in the way.
You need that because I can't read a lot if I do like a 100-mile bike ride. Because when I get home, I'm just going to fall asleep after I eat something. But if it's like a kind of day where like I bike to Randall's Island and then just lay in the sun for a while, or we go to the beach, like if we could just go to the beach, I need like 3 beach days and I'll be done with this book.
Maybe
4 beach days because I might swim a lot.
Sure.
Otherwise, follow us in all the places. Stay tuned for our likely PAX East online panels.
I'm still slowly but surely making progress and updating all of our website type stuff. Someone came to our Discord where you should come and recently was like, hey, how come like in the RSS feed, there's no like thing of the day links? Well, there has, and effectively almost always has been an RSS feed for just things of the day. Which is funny because
I forgot. And I literally like, Scott, that's a good idea. We should do it. And Scott's like, okay, I got good news.
Yeah, it's like our existing website that I made so long ago already has a lot of functionality you may not realize. So
we have RSS feeds for every Geek Nights, every individual day of weeknights, just the book club, just the specials, just the experimental episodes, which we haven't done one of those
anymore.
You know what the next episode is that's going to be in that feed? It's going to be when we do a call-in show, I think.
Yeah, the website, is old and kind of and needs a lot of help. And when I redo it, it's going to have all this functionality and way more. But
we even have a feed of a random selection of old episodes of Geek Nights.
Yeah, so there is a surprising amount of useful, if you want to follow Geek Nights the way you want to follow it, we're on almost every platform, and our website, has RSS feeds and other things.
And if there are ways you want to interact with us or with other Geek Nights listeners or people in the Geek Nights community who do not listen to Geek Nights, which is a thing, like that's fine, let us know because we're designing these new experiences and websites. The more input we get from you, I'm not saying we'll do everything you ask for, but I'd like to at least know what you want while we're thinking about this.
And a lot of this stuff already exists, so
yeah.
There you
go. So yeah, let's get right into it. Skin. Because if you can't tell, we're trying to come up with Thursday episodes. Let me pull up the Wikipedia article on Skin.
So obviously we're not dermatologists or experts in any way, the way that the TikTok doctor
Nope,
is.
we are not doctors. We're
So
any advice we give you.
Right. So obviously, if you have any sort of actual skin question or condition or anything, don't put 100% faith in whatever we say. Right. You should verify it.
Hey, settle a bet. Is this a boil?
Right. You should, anything that we say, you should verify it against, someone who you can actually trust, like a doctor.
Yep.
If you have an actual condition, go to a doctor quickly, please. Right. Figure that shit out. Get, if you can, I hope you can.
Yep. I do pay particular attention to aspects of my own skin because actually malignant melanoma runs on one side of my family. Like a lot of my relatives have had malignant melanoma tumors removed surgically, but it's not that big a deal because honestly, if it's caught early enough, like removing it is usually fine. Like none of them, despite all these tumors being removed, no one in my family has ever died of skin cancer.
Yeah, I think that's like the number one thing you got to talk about if you're talking about skin, right? It's an organ of your body. It's made of cells, just like the rest of your body is made of cells. Your blood's made of cells, your bones are made of cells, your brain is made of cells, right? Your skin is made of cells also. It's an organ, just like your heart, your lung, whatever, right?
And your skin is literally the most important part of your immune system. It is the thing that separates the inside of your body from the rest of the universe.
Yeah.
You're just a long tube filled with meat, and there's a mucous membrane on the inside, and there's skin on the outside.
Yeah, skin, if there's something wrong with your skin, it's like if there's something wrong with your lung, you'd be like, oh shit, and go to the doctor, right?
Yep.
Something's wrong with your skin, guess what? Oh shit, get that taken care of.
Yep, but at the same time, a lot of the things that can be wrong with skin are completely benign, but they can be visible, and they can be frightening if you don't know. I feel like, but every time I've gone to a doctor for a skin thing, the thing I'm fascinated by, because I've been to doctors for a lot of different things, dermatologists are the only doctors I've ever been to where I come in, they look at me, and within 10 seconds they're like, oh, that's a blah, 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 blah. I know exactly what that is. Here's your...
They have the luxury of being able to see the fucking thing.
Yep,
They don't
right?
have to do like an x-ray or an MRI or a guess, right? It's like, oh, doctor, I got a pain in my right hip. It's like a doctor looks at your hip. It looks like a hip.
Yep. I went to the doctor once because I had a headache for a month, and the first thing they said was, well, don't want to alarm you, but that sounds like a brain tumor. We're doing an immediate MRI and CAT scan. It was not, in fact, a brain tumor. It was, in fact, Lyme disease. But I went in once because I had a thing growing it was almost like a tumor just growing on my eyebrow. And I was like, oh, God, cancer. And I go to the doctor, and they're like, let me just
hit it with a book.
No, it wasn't a Gideon's lump. That's not a skin thing. That's a different thing, which is still there. You can see it kind of sticking out of my wrist. It's harmless. But so I go in, and I'm like, oh, no, well, what are they going to do? Biopsy. They didn't even biopsy it. They looked at it, and they're like, I thought they were just, like, investigating it. And then I feel a slight pinch, and then the doctor, she just, like, leans back, and she's holding it, and she says, well, I took care of that. I was like, what was it? Just like skin tab, harmless. I was like, oh, okay, can do a biopsy? She's like, no.
Yeah, the one time I went to an actual dermatologist, I had like a rash, right? And I couldn't get rid of it. And it didn't itch or anything, but it just wouldn't go away.
Yep.
They walk in like 2 seconds. They're like, that's what this is called, is tinea versicolor. I had
a tinea versicolor that
I've brochure for it. A brochure for it and a prescription immediately, and then walks out. And I'm like, what the hell did I wait in the waiting room for a 5-second meeting? It's like,
yep. I had a recent minor bout with versicolor, but actually I did a telemedicine, and they said, yeah, it's actually not that bad yet. So they literally told me to just put my anti-dandruff shampoo on that place for a while.
The prescription they gave me was just Selsun Blue that was double powered.
Yep.
And all I had to do was rub it on and just wait and not just wash it off immediately.
Yep, and that took care of it.
That made it go away super fast. Anyway, but yeah, so skin is real important, but at the same time, skin is unique from most of the other organs in that it has an aesthetic quality to it, right? You can, because the doctor can see it, which is great, but everyone else can see it, at least unless you cover your entire body.
If you worry about the aesthetics of your hearts or lungs, there's something weird going on.
Right. Right, there are other parts of your body. People worry about the aesthetics of their eyes or their hair, right, or maybe their nails.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's mostly skin, right?
Plus, hair and nails are at least skin adjacent. Like they're attached right there, also on the outside.
Sure. Yeah. It's skin is the number one aesthetic thing. So in addition to there's this sort of crossover between in capitalism wise, right? Of, take care of your skin to look good, right? Have it be shiny and clean and, all these beauty standards and whatnot. And also take care of your skin for it to be healthy, right? And it's like, obviously you got to do the healthy one, that no matter what, right? It's like if you can.
But the separation between the healthy things and the aesthetic things and also the completely fake things, there's a wide gulf between these three things in many cases.
Yep. And so, but there's also an industry that is, come up and trying to take people's money, right, in exchange for the promise, true or false, of, aesthetically good skin, right? And some of that is legit. And there's nothing wrong with wanting your skin to look nice or making it look nice. That's totally cool, right?
But we also can't hold people to, like, beauty standards have a lot of problems. Like, obviously, we're not doing the show about that. But if someone, like, if I'm injured, like, having a skin problem is no different than having a leg problem or anything that's visible. And a lot of people will judge their own self-worth and the self-worth of others based on those aesthetics.
Right, and you shouldn't be doing that either, right? What someone's skin looks like, right, doesn't say anything about who that person is underneath that skin.
I consider myself very fortunate that I didn't have to deal with acne, because I knew a lot of people who did, and acne sucks ass.
Yeah, it sucks. But, the problem is, that's also a health thing, right? Because acne hurts.
It is. It needs treatment, but it's also,
it's not just the aesthetic aspect of it that's a problem, right?
Yep. So,
So what happens, right, is that, like I was saying, capitalism-wise, there are people who are trying to sell various things, many of which are complete nonsense, right? Because people have these feelings about their skin, right? They can be taken advantage of into buying all sorts of expensive, maybe not helpful stuff, right?
Yep.
And this, this skincare sort of industry, right? Obviously, it's not new as a whole, right? It's like, even I don't know that much history. I didn't research the history of skincare, but it's like, even I know about stuff like the oil that they would scrape off of gladiators in ancient Greece and shit, right?
Yeah, well, it's tied very much to bathing culture and also cosmetics.
So it's not new, but what is relatively new, right, is just the wide array of, different types of products and things, right? If you think about, like, if my grandmother went to the store to buy some stuff for her skin, right, what was available then in the 50s, 60s, right? It's like not that many things compared to today, where you can have a whole store that's just a fucking skin store, and they've just got shelves and shelves and shelves of different things they can sell to you to put on your skin to help with different things, at a wide range of price points and quantity, and like just so much stuff. And it's like, oh my God, and some of that is very, very positive in that, hey, we've got, our advanced science, medical science, right, has let us come up with all these great things to help out our skin, right, that we didn't have before. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. You can have, people probably have skin, it's like a normal person today can have way better skin than, like, very wealthy people from the 50s could, because they didn't have, even if they spent all their money, what could they get, right? But on the other hand, right, a lot of stuff is just nonsense trying to take your money, right? It's not, or is possibly even actively harmful thing.
Or also are often treated as panaceas, because the one thing, if I internalized anything about what I do know about skin and skincare, is that individual people, even with very similar genetics, often have radically different skin situations, and very few pieces of advice about skin are universally useful to people.
Yeah, I think the only universally useful skin advice,
probably wear some sunscreen and bathe.
Right. It's like, avoid skin cancer.
Yep.
Right?
Though I will admit, full disclosure, I rarely wear sunscreen. Unless I'm going...
The TikTok determines... I mean, I don't wear it unless... if I'm going out in the sun, I wear it. And I always wear a hat. Since
I only wear it if I'm going out into the sun for a moderate... Like, I know I'm going to be out in the sun.
I wear it if I'm going to go biking or...
And I wear it skiing, because that is sunburn central, way more than the beach.
Yeah, but the TikTok dermatologist says wear sunscreen just every fucking day. Every day.
I'm honestly not willing to because it's too much of a pain. It's too greasy.
I mean,
I get if I wear it.
Doctor.
Yeah, I'll trade that. I've traded that risk for. Because when I do wear sunscreen regularly, like long sports things, I tend to get a bunch of pimples and things on all the places I'm putting the sunscreen. Yeah. Especially my face.
The point is skin cancer. I mean, there probably are other skin diseases that are deadly that I'm not aware of, being not a doctor, but skin cancer is the common, very deadly one, right? Yep. So you want to keep an eye on your skin, look out for it, and protect.
Well, that's pretty much the biggest thing. The thing I watch out for in my own skin is, did something change where I don't have a good explanation for why it changed?
Right.
Like, do I have a sore somewhere? Was I picking at something? Did I hurt myself? Can I explain where that came from? Okay. Is that mole bigger? Is it actually bigger? I should pay attention to that mole. It seems like it's getting bigger.
Let me measure it, right? If you got a mole, measure it. Write it down somewhere. Yeah.
Well, actually, so one thing I do, I'm going to do it every...
peace of mind of knowing if it actually got bigger or not.
I did this like every 5 years until now, but now that I'm approaching 40, this is one of those things I'm going to do every year going forward, is get the skin survey where they take pictures of my skin so that year over year they can see if anything is changing. Because
if you can afford it and you got time for it, do it.
It's actually it's a perk
if you are susceptible to it or have a history of it, like Rym said he has.
Yep, the clinic in my office actually does it for free. So,
oh, okay,
yeah,
sounds good.
But I
have seen some like PSA style advertisements for it that were like get naked, like it was like a little get naked campaign that was like
But it was interesting when I did it, most recently, because it was more thorough and I'm an adult. It'd been a while since I'd done it. And I have one mole that I felt like, oh, that mole must be bigger. It's probably like that mole feels like it's a problem. That is the biggest potential source of trouble that I can see on my own body. And the dermatologist didn't even like barely looked at it. And then at the end I was like, so I have any issues? They're like, no. And I was like, what about this mole? And they were like, they literally asked me, do you want to see what a dangerous mole actually looks like? And I said, no. And she said, that mole is not dangerous. And I left it at that.
Yeah.
That dermatologist I've been to twice is pretty awesome. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the dermatologist that I saw for 1 minute I would go back to them even if they still around. It was a long time ago.
But I guess in terms of the whole sunburn things, like sunscreen, part of the reason why I probably don't wear sunscreen as often as I should is that I don't tend to burn, or I don't tend to burn badly. Like I tend to get pretty swarthy if I get a lot of sun pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. That's just luck of genetics, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So there is one thing about skin that I researched somewhat recently. And, obviously don't trust what I'm saying because it is based on internet research, even though I was reading things from like Harvard Medical, whatever. So research it yourself. But what I learned, right, my interpretation of what I read is I was very curious because so many things out there claim to moisturize, right? Like everything in the universe is like moisturize your skin. And I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? Right? People talk about dry skin and it's like, okay, sometimes I get like chapped lips or whatever, but it's like, I've never really felt like my skin was dry anywhere. Maybe like, I guess elbow skin, maybe, right? It's like, I don't know. What are these people talking about? Right. So I looked it up and basically the deal is that obviously your skin can dry out. That's a thing. I guess it just doesn't happen to me too much.
I've never really had that happen unless I was sick or skiing.
Yeah, I've only 90%. I think the vast majority of my personal dry skin was, chapped lip.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. Like some people just need to use like chapstick constantly.
Yeah.
I literally only use it like once or twice a year during like the peak of ski season and never any other time.
I need it if I go biking or if I actually go outside in the winter more. Nowadays I stay inside in the winter, right? So,
you can come ski with me sometime.
Right. So then I was looking at all these, how many different crazy products are out there that claim to moisturize, right? And I was like, some of these had to be lying, right? It's like, this must be some, it smelled fishy to me, right? Especially since when you look at the products, I look at like the list of active ingredients. When I would look at those lists of active ingredients, the sunscreen ingredients would always be listed as active ingredients. And none of these other ingredients that they would brag about on the front of the product would be listed as active ingredients on the back of the product. And I was just like, does that mean they haven't proven that they moisturize? Or like, what's the deal? They're claiming they can moisturize or whatever. right? Is that legit? Is it not legit? What's the deal? You know? So what I found out is that basically is like all you need, according to a thing I read in Harvard that I probably maybe could find the link again.
Let's see what you say, because I got a Mayo Clinic article up that's giving me some info.
Okay. And basically what the article said was that all you need to do to moisturize skin is you need water, obviously, because that's what you're moisturizing with, right? But if you just put water on yourself, that won't moisturize you. Why? Because the water will just go away. There's nothing to trap the water on you, right?
Yep. That is a specific danger. A PSA for all of you out there. Hikers often get parasites. Like, this is a thing, especially campers and hikers, because they'll be a little bit dehydrated and their lips will get dry while hiking, and they might take stream water and put it on their lips because it very briefly makes them feel less chapped and dry. But then they immediately feel chapped and dry again, and now you've got parasites in your mouth.
Yep. So yeah. So water alone cannot cure your dry skin problem, right? What you need to moisturize your skin is water combined with some kind of grease, right? And you're like, well, wait a minute, the grease and the water don't mix. How does that work, right? It's like, well, basically, you've got, they create something such that the grease is trapping the water against you, right? So the water goes on your skin with the grease, right? You're all slimy now. But the water won't evaporate away because you basically slapped a grease shield on yourself, right? So your body will naturally release oils, right? Which I found out the name for oil is sebum. You got the sebaceous glands. They squirt sebum. That's how.
Because I get some seborrheic dermatitis sometimes, so I know a lot about sebum.
Yeah. I mean, my bald head squirts out a bunch of sebum, right? And it gets all sebaceous. It's all greasy on the bald head, right? It's a problem. And so the sebum is sort of a double-edged sword that your body makes, because on the one hand, it does protect your skin, right? Your body makes its own grease to protect itself, right? It's kind of smart. But some people make too much grease. Some people don't make enough. So, it can be kind of gross. It's not very nice.
Yep.
Grease, right? You can get better grease.
Oi, have you got any grease?
Have you got any grease? Then grease me up, right? It's like the grease alone doesn't do it. It has to be grease with some sort of, hydrating water or something, right? You just take oil and alone, like just olive oil. It's probably not going to do it, right? Even though I guess ancient Greeks did that.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, what did my grandma do, right? My grandma didn't have the skin store to go to, right? The Korean skincare, right? Was not available to grandma. What the fuck did grandma do, right? You know what grandma had? Fucking Vaseline. That's what grandma had.
Yep.
Right?
That's what the Mayo Clinic, that's the first thing they list, like Vaseline. That's one of the best ones to use.
Vaseline is the thing, right?
Specifically, they say look for ointments with petroleum jelly. Vaseline, Aquaphor, stuff like that.
What's petroleum jelly? It's fucking grease.
Yep.
It's like if you got dry skin, it's grease and water. Vaseline is like the ultimate, right? All the other moisturizing products out there, right, are basically just a fancier Vaseline or maybe less good Vaseline, depending, right, on which product it is, right? It's some sort of different grease-ish, oily jelly thing, right, with some sort of hydration thing, right? And some of them, feel nicer, right? They're not all greasy and nasty and shiny like Vaseline is. Some of them go on lighter, right? They don't feel as heavy. Vaseline is really heavy, right? It's like, can you imagine rubbing that all over your face? It's like, it's gross, right? But yeah, that's all it really comes down to is grease and water. So, and even if you don't have dry skin, it may or may not, be a good idea to use some sort of, hydrating lotion or moisturizing lotion of some kind, because it might do a better job than sebum does. It may help reduce your sebum output and it'll be nicer, right? It'll feel nicer than sebum does, right? It might be a good idea.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I learned about was what is the deal with skin moisturization? That's it. And everything beyond that is basically people trying to sell you stuff and be fancy.
Right? Yep. I mean, everyone has different circumstances. But again, I just feel very lucky that I don't need to do many things to my skin. Most of my skin-related stories are around injuries as opposed to just long-standing or simpler problems like that.
Mm-hmm. And so the second thing I learned, right, literally the only other thing I learned when doing that research was when you look at a lot of skin products for things like, acne or psoriasis or a lot of conditions, right? You always see an ingredient that I just kept seeing, even for dandruff. One ingredient I just kept seeing over and over and over again in almost every product for several different conditions, right? The over-the-counter products listed the active ingredient of salicylic acid, right? It's like there's so many products for so many different things list that ingredient. And I was like, what the hey? Like, what's the deal with the salicylic acid? That it's like this cure-all? Like, what, like what's the deal with that? And even other products I was seeing, they were promoting like other acids, like hyaluronic. I don't know how to pronounce it properly.
I know the full deal with it, so I see where you're going with this.
Right, yeah, they were promoting all these other acids, right? And I was like, well, what's up? Why would you want to put acid on your face? That doesn't sound like a good idea, right? It's like, why is this stuff such a popular product, right? And basically what the deal is those acids, right, are basically exactly the right strength to, clean away filth, right? Better than, water alone. Unlike soap, they won't remove, the like good stuff, right? Or dry you out the way soap will, because soap washes away the grease, right? That you need to stay hydrated. And they'll burn through other things, right? Like all the, shit clogging up your pores and whatnot, because it's acid. But they're not going to mess up your skin because they did a lot of research over the years, and they found like the exact acids that are, good for cleaning your skin, getting rid of all the stuff on you, but not hurting you.
Well, also, chemically, that is very adjacent to just aspirin. And a salt of that is that's Pepto-Bismol.
No, Pepto-Bismol is also like close.
It's also bismuth. Hence, biz.
Mm-hmm.
It's bismuth and salicylic acid. That is literally what's in there.
Yep. So one of the things I took away from that research was like, hey, I've been cleaning my face with soap, right? It's like, should I be cleaning my face with some facial cleanser?
So my entire life, when I wash my face, I never use soap and I only use my hands. I basically wash my face with my hands and water, and that's it. I've done that my whole life.
So you're using your natural face grease, basically.
Yep, natural face grease. I don't put anything on my face ever except occasional chapstick and sunscreen.
Yeah, well, I was having problems with my skin under my beard, so that's why I was looking into this.
So now that I have a beard, this is hair, because I don't have any skin problems with the beard, but I do put beard oil in my beard.
I tried the oil, and the oil helped. It let my beard get longer before things started to itch and get bad, but it didn't let it go.
See, for me, the oil is only because it smells nice. Like I'm basically using it like a cologne, and it helps keep my beard shaped nicely. Like it prevents as many stray hairs from popping up. Kind of holds it together. And I have a thicker beard balm I use if I'm going out that it's almost like hair gel for my beard. But
beard oil is a form of, moisturizing of the skin underneath the beard, right? It does serve to.
But if I don't use it, the skin's fine. The only difference is the beard is a slightly more ratty looking and I don't smell as nice.
Yeah, the beard oil helped me get the beard longer before the itching and stuff happened, but it wasn't a permanent solution. I couldn't grow an infinite beard with the beard oil. It didn't get me there. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll shave off my beard and I will apply things to my skin. So I got a completely normal, right? Not, drugstore facial cleansing thing. And is it better for my skin? I don't fucking know. I can't tell you. Right? Should you go out and get one? I don't fucking know. Right? I don't know. But what I can tell you is that using it definitely cleans my face as well as soap did. Right? My face is not dirty. And B, it feels nicer to clean my face with that than it does to use regular old soap. There's just something about it, the way they've concocted it.
I can see that.
It feels nice, right? To clean your face with that instead of just soap. So. I guess that's what I learned about the acid situation. Yeah, there's it's just shocking how many different skin conditions the over-the-counter medication, like the active ingredient, even though you think they're different conditions, the active ingredient is just like salicylic acid.
So on a sort of completely orthogonal tangent, partly because we've already gone a pretty long time on this show, we had more to say than I expected. Okay. But before antibiotics, skin damage was one of the leading causes of death in humans once you got past things like hunger and like significant endemic diseases. Like I've had
they didn't have the products, they didn't have anything to deal with it. They,
at 3 separate points in my life, I literally would have died if antibiotics did not exist. Like I would have just died because I've had cellulitis 3 different times due to injuries that I've suffered.
I've had a lot of poison ivy in my younger days, right?
Ooh.
To take like steroids to get rid of the poison ivy. It was so,
Cellulitis, like I've always dealt with it appropriately, but part of the reason, even today, people still die of it, even in places where antibiotics are readily accessible, partly because for whatever reason, probably it's due to the way society is, there's a lot of factors here. A lot of people don't really understand how serious of a problem and how dangerous a skin infection like that is and how fast it will progress. Like people will have an infection, like an infected minor wound, and it gets a little red and swollen, and they just like don't think much about it. Or because the American healthcare system is so fucked up, they avoid going to the doctor because it doesn't seem that bad. And then like overnight, it can become life-threatening.
Right. I guess the one last thing is that, we've been talking about these skin conditions, and you're the most of the ones we've been talking about are ones that are like they exist on the skin only. It's like there are other conditions that like you're not gonna chicken pox, right? It's like it shows up on your skin, but that's
well. In my
leprosy most shows up on your skin.
My most recent
but leprosy is not a skin disease
with cellulitis. It was right before COVID. Because remember, I broke my toe at PAX East.
Yep.
So I broke my toe just randomly at PAX East, and I taped it up. Taping it up was a mistake because after that incident, it's like a weird skin thing that happened. I developed an allergy to the adhesive in medical bandages. Only
I know someone who
but only on like certain parts of my body. Like it was super weird how this happened. And even my doctor was like, yeah, that can happen. Like there was some confluence of I got cellulitis from a wound because of damage from contact dermatitis and possibly a latent athlete's foot infection that was not bothering me. Like it wasn't noticeable, but it got aggravated by the fact that I had an open skin wound.
I know someone who had a medication that came on a patch, and you'd have to replace the patch. You have to replace the patch like every once in a while, right? But they had some sort of reaction to the adhesive on the patch, and the medication was working fine.
Oh, even when I get to my COVID shot because of this new allergy, I got my first COVID shot, and they put a Band-Aid on it. And when I came home, I took the Band-Aid off. The next day, you know what I had on my arm? A bright red Band-Aid shaped wound that stayed for like 3 weeks, and there's still an echo of it on my skin.
Yeah, well, that's.
But
skin doesn't do that, right? All skin is cells, right? They're living things. Everyone's got different DNA. Different DNA makes different cells.
So, but props again to dermatologists because I went to the doctor. I went to a regular doctor. I wasn't even a dermatologist because that cluster of I had a broken toe and a minor cellulitis coupled with contact dermatitis all in the same place. I didn't know what any of that. Like I didn't understand any of that much when it happened. But my foot, like the morning when I went to the doctor, looked terrifying. Like it looked bad. And I go to the doctor and the doctor looks at it and he just says, that isn't really anything. Like, I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, there's really nothing I can do. That'll go away on its own. Just wait a few weeks. It's not gangrene.
You got to imagine, like, if you're actually a dermatologist, it's like, you've seen like some, it's like if you're an average person, how often do you see some horrific skin thing?
Right?
It's like someone who has one is probably covering it in public, right? They're probably not showing it off as they walk down the street if they can help it.
Well, there's the analogy. Think about when we see someone's computer that is, shall we say, poorly managed. We look at it and instantly are like, wow, that is full of malware. That is broken. That is broken. And the person be like, what is fine? What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then we'll see someone else's computer and it doesn't have a bunch of malware, and they might be like, oh, I got a problem. We're like, no, you don't.
Yep. Someone comes like, oh, I think my computer's having a serious problem.
Bump you have on your arm, and they're like, I just saw a guy who's like, had no skin left or something, right? Who knows what they saw? They've seen such horrific shit. It's like, such, way worse people in way worse shape. They look at you, they're like, okay. But that doesn't mean that just because you have something that doesn't look like a big deal, you shouldn't go get it checked out, right?
Yeah, go get it checked out, and
right, it means go get it checked out because it'll take 5 minutes. They'll look at you and you'll have peace of mind, and you'll be totally cool.
Yep, like case in point, certain kinds of skin injuries I will treat at home rather than go to the doctor because kind of like a broken rib. I know the doctor can't do anything. But if you don't know, if you aren't sure, do not Google it because you're just going to see things that are going to disturb you and you're going to be convinced that you're dying.
I guess the one last thing in these COVID times, the last advantage of dermatology is that it's great for telemedicine.
Yeah.
You could just because you can see it, right? You can show it on your little phone's camera.
I know multiple people who during COVID had a skin thing where even in conversation with me, I was like, I know it's COVID times, but you should get that checked out because that is beyond, that is at the level where if I were you, I would go to a doctor. And those people all did a telemedicine where a dermatologist on the other side was immediately able to say, nope, I know what that is. Don't fucking worry about it.
I feel like there should be like a dermatology. Maybe they have this at the dermatology conference, like a game show where they show a photo.
I follow a Twitter account.
Identify the rash or whatever.
Right? that PAX Omegathon finale.
Identify the rash.
Identify the rash.
Maybe we should hire a dermatologist and make a website that's like a rash.
Name that rash.
Okay, I want to eat dinner.
All right, I think it's food time indeed.
Good.
That was a fine